Thank you for joining us today and listening in to our Roadmap Recovery and Business Support webinar. Just to let you know, we are recording this today so people can look at it and catch up. Today, I'm going to be joined by my colleagues, Justin, Jessica and Sam. Gill Harvey, who's the Visitor Economy Sector Specialist Advisor for Business Lincolnshire. My colleague and the project manager for Cycle Lincolnshire and Cycle England, Hayley Toyne, and our almost adopted member of the team, Katrina Pierce from the FSB, who many of you will have heard from before. You're all on mute, so I don't want you to worry about your dogs barking, your baby's crying. I just want you to sit back, listen in, and then we can take you through the next hour or so, just a little bit of advice, go through the roadmap dates, little bit of signposting and some ideas that might help you with your business growth. So you should see at the bottom of your screen, you've got a Q&A button. You can use this to ask questions and we'll endeavour to answer those, or you can use the chat button. So if you want to have a look with those, you can use them. So if I start today, just a few little things I want to mention before we start talking in terms of grants from Gill and Katrina and cycling from Hayley. If I just let you know of a few things that are going on. So the pink book, I'm not sure if you all know about it, but accommodation providers should. It's legislation for tourism accommodation, and Visit England published this. The next edition, which is the 11th edition, is due out in April 2021. For the first time this year, it will include visitor attraction content. So just keep your eyes out for that, and accommodation providers in particular may want to look at it. We've had a meeting here at Visit Lincoln earlier today, actually, with LNER, and we're hoping to meet up with them over the next few weeks to discuss a special charter train from either or both Edinburgh and King's Cross into Lincoln. So I was talking to them earlier today and looking at sort of a weekend package. So the idea would be people from Edinburgh or King's Cross would get on the train on Saturday morning, come into Lincoln, spend the day here in the evening, have Sunday, go home Sunday evening. LNER have confirmed that they're quite happy to run this charter train. It would run in the summer holidays. And so that's something that we'll be catching up with over the next few weeks and actually sort of putting flesh on the bone and getting those details ready for you. So we'll let you know about that once we hear more. We want to encourage people now to, I suppose, start planning their trips and have the confidence in where they're going. And we know from the announcement on Monday after that was made, people are actively looking now for holidays and already thinking about booking them and are in fact booking holidays. They want to know if it's safe. So I want you to think about your website, make sure it's up to date, it's giving the correct information, make sure it looks good on your phone as well. Be ready to take those inquiries and receive your guests. And I know you all will do this, but just sometimes operationally, you can concentrate so much on the logistics of the business and what's going on inside that these little things get missed. So just give your websites a little bit of an overhaul, give them a quick audit, make sure the information's correct, because when you're ready to open on the 12th, some of the information you may have previously given won't be correct, it'll change. Visit Britain have come up with a series of business recovery webinars. They're all pre-recorded, so you can just listen into them. And there is a link. I'm hoping you can see it on our chat box, but if you don't get it, just give me a quick call and I can send you the link to those. They are really interesting and very, very helpful. One of the most recent ones was around bookability, and bookability on your own channels, which is your website, bookability via an online distributor, and bookability via a wider trade organisation. I think these are the three main areas for me that you need to look at and concentrate on. When it comes to diversifying your distribution channels, this is really crucial. It's crucial to you, not just your customers, because for you, it would mean you are more efficient, you have data and insight, you can have a greater reach, it will allow you to collaborate and create spend. The TXGB platform is also available now, and that might be another booking platform that you might want to use. And make sure your social media is up to date and you're engaging with your guests. And as I say, make sure that audit is done on your website. There's also a useful bit of coding called a widget, which is something the team at Visit Lincoln here we'll pass on to our partners. So what it does is you put it on your website, we give you the coding for that, and it will give people a snapshot of what's going on in the city. And as well, this increases your offer, it makes it more attractive. So when people are looking on your website and thinking about booking time to come and spend with you, you've got all the information there. You can see what's going on in the city. They may then start to think about planning their itinerary. It just makes your offer more appealing and increases and enhances your own offering on your website. So if you want to know more about the widget, and I would encourage you all to use it so you know what's happening in the city and further afield. Any events are on there, so it may be things that are going on the East Coast, maybe anywhere, but you need to have that. Just give the team a call and we can help you with that. The Good to Go scheme, that has been extended, and some of you may know, it's really important to consumers. Now, if you've got the Good to Go scheme and it's that green tick, please display it on your website. There's no point in having it and not telling anyone. You really need to make sure that people can see it. Put on your website, on the bottom of your email footers if you want to. And the good thing is that Visit Britain only this morning, in a meeting that I was in with them earlier, announced that any tourism business that was already registered for that scheme can now be automatically issued with the International Safe Travels stamp. And this is from the World Travel and Tourism Council. So this additional stamp will serve to, I suppose, reinforce that ring of confidence for visitors. And it shows that you've got clear processes in place to welcome your visitors back safely. It's really important because people are looking for safety still. They want to come and spend time on holiday. They want to enjoy all the new things to come and see and do and experience, but they want to be sure that they're safe. So make sure you've got those stamps clearly visible. I want you as well to make sure that you are signed up to our Insights newsletter. Now, we have a B2C and a B2B newsletter, and I want you to sign up. Make sure you've got this B2B newsletter. You need to know what's going on out there, what's happening in the business community. We do calls for content as well. So we may ask you, what have you got going on that we can tell our consumer-facing audience to attract them to you ultimately? So it may be that we could ask things like, I don't know, Discover Lincolnshire weekend at the end of March. What have you got going on? What have you got going on for Mother's Day? We want to encourage you to give us that content so then we can feed that in to the consumer insights newsletter. Again, encourage them into Lincolnshire as a whole and finding out what's going on, what events are available, what offers you've got going on. So anything at all you need to let us know about as a team. But yes, it's important to sign up to that newsletter because it's a way that we can let you know every week what's going on, policy updates, etc. So I want you to also keep telling me about the offers. When I email you and I say national newspapers being in touch on the broadsheets. So at the moment, I think we're working with the Guardian, the Telegraph, Sunday Times, and the Daily Mail. So their journalists will contact us and say, oh, we're looking for, I don't know, camping and glamping breaks, family breaks, things to do on the water. And I will fire out emails and ask you for information. I know now you're all going to get really busy and thinking about your own businesses, but if you haven't got time to give me all the info, just send me a quick email saying, yes, Samantha, I've got availability. Please include me in this campaign. Now, I'm not promising that you're all going to be published then in the Telegraph, and I'm under no illusion that all the broadsheets then will also ask other counties what they've got. But if you're not in it, you won't win it. So my theory is the more that we keep sending in this information, the more we keep telling them about Lincolnshire, Lincoln, how amazing it is and what great experiences and places to stay and things to do we have, the more chance we've got. So as I say, when I send you the invites and say, can you give me your info? Please do. Now, I just want to touch very quickly before we go to Jill on helping each other. And helping each other in this approach to other businesses. And as you know, I'm very keen to give business to business and within our partnership for our partners to give that business back and help each other. And I want you to start thinking about, as you reopen now in April, think about maybe things you haven't done before. So maybe if you are a self-catering accommodation provider, let's say, have you thought about a package weekend? could you go to your local bakery or bread shop and say, I would like to start advertising a Saturday afternoon, a weekend break, Saturday afternoon, a group of 6 ladies, they're going to come, they want to do cake decorating. And then the person from the cake shop comes in, does the cake decorating, the ladies have a wonderful time, it creates a great memory, and then they go on and want to come back and do it again, and they've made friends, and it's fantastic. Logistically, you're going to have to sort out about the money side of it, but I can help you through that. But ultimately, what I'm trying to do is trying to get you to think about extending your business a little bit and offering something that you might not have done before, but helping you with other partners and connecting you, and then you all benefit from that. So cake decorating, I don't know, flower arranging, that would be great for Christmas. You could have a wreath and advertise something where they come and make their own wreath and take it home. Painting, photography. Painting and photography appeal to me because you can attract the same guests, but at different times of the year. Because if they paint or photograph something in summer, it's not going to look the same in winter, but they're going to come back and they get a totally different view. So think about that. Think about cross promotion with other businesses. If when people are inquiring or they make their booking, start thinking about asking them, and you may do this already, but for those that don't, start thinking about asking them, is it a special occasion? If it is a special occasion, do they want, if it's a wedding anniversary and the chap makes the booking, would he like some flowers there on arrival for his lovely wife? And you can arrange that for a small cost. Again, a little bit of extra money on the income stream, but it's about that service. People want good service, and it makes a special time for them. And again, they feel loyal to you, they'll remember you, they'll want to come back and spend time with you. You can also do that with some of our other partners in terms of, I don't know, let's think like Pingin or Fab. So maybe you can have craft ales on arrival, some gin, some Lincoln gin, you know, just try and think about how we can connect, and also think about other partners that you might not know of that you want to say to me, Samantha, has Visit Lincoln got partners who do whatever? Can you connect me with those? And happily I will. We do have chefs who are partners, and they are happy to come out and cook meals if it's a special occasion in your facilities. So let's think about that as well. And I'm just trying to prompt you here to start thinking about new things that you haven't tried before. And if you want to call me and let's have a bit of a brainstorm, then that's what we'll do. 12th of April, people are going to be able to get married. Now, they'll get married, but they're going to look at having a staycation honeymoon. And they're only going to be able to take that in self-catering accommodation. So again, if you are a self-catering accommodator, think about, can you connect with somebody that does the weddings, and can you work with them to make that day still beautiful for those people, and just tie up another type of the business there. Also, little things like offering services, like I know lots of you will do, you arrive and you get a lovely home baked cake and maybe a bottle of Prosecco. Just extend that a little bit. Maybe they want a full fridge, or when they book, you could give them a little shopping list and they could tick it off. So you could say, do you want just the essentials, egg, bread, milk, or do you want a full fridge ready? You charge them an additional fee, and then when they arrive, everything is there. All they've got to do is unpack and start unwinding, having a great time. Children can enjoy themselves, the couples can put TV on, put their feet up. It's all done, all taken care of. So that's what you need to think about as well. And also extending that season, because we all know that the season is going to be extended now. People are looking to take longer holidays. So think about things that you might not have before. So what's going to be happening in the autumn? So that could be other things. Again, just get in touch with me and look on our events listing, because it could be, you know, like there could be flower festivals at the cathedral. A big one for me is seals up on the coast. People love going to see the seals. And I don't think, you know, when we're in Lincoln as well, centric, we don't kind of think about that, but we need to, you know, extend that season, as I say, and encourage people to go and travel around. And we are exceptionally lucky in Lincolnshire. I don't think there's many places where you could go and enjoy cycling, walking in the Wolds, seaside on the coast, heritage in the city. We have got everything. I know I always say this, but we do have everything. So without further ado, we're going to go over to Gill Harvey, who is going to give us a quick update and hopefully links will be shown as we go along, and if you need anything, as I say, I'm always here to support and signpost. So if we go over to Gill now, if you could join us, Gill, that would be wonderful.
Lovely, thank you very much, Samantha. So hopefully you'll all be aware now of the grants that have been released through, or are being released through, Lincolnshire County Council. We've been hot on the case with the council. I have to say they are, if not the first, one of the first councils in England to have released money to support their businesses, and I think we have to congratulate them on that. As a result, of course, they're trying to get the money through as fast as possible to businesses, but that does mean there needs to be a lot of transparency about the process. They need to make sure that the content is easy for people to navigate. So as a result, we've been trying to get a few insider insights for you, but they have said to me today, I spoke with them just before coming online with you, the information for the two key grants that are coming up, which is the digital voucher and the rural business grant, the criteria will be available from Monday. They weren't prepared to share any information today, because they wanted transparency. They, want it to be totally open and transparent for businesses, but also they're just dotting all of the I's and crossing the T's as we speak. I know that Samantha has sent out communication to you all, and I just want to reiterate, please, please, please have everything ready. I was assisting some businesses earlier this week with the recovery grant, and I can vouch for the fact that if you take longer than 20 minutes to complete your application, you have to start all over again. And think through in advance, what is the grant that you're looking for, and why? How can it really help you? I think there's a small pot of money. They've already said on the website that it will be a first come first serve. They may close the window early. So having a look at the criteria we have now, for example, for the digital voucher, what we can see at the moment, there's one-to-one specialist advice, and I know from speaking with businesses that we only know what we know. So sometimes we don't have this digital technology because we don't know it exists and what it can do for us. So, explore and ask questions, have a chat with Samantha beforehand, or, I'm always available, but, come to Visit Lincoln, have a chat and say, what is available that would help my business to flourish? And then when you put your case forward, it's a really considered application, and you're much more likely to be accepted with the grant. And the same applies with the rural business grant. That is all about diversification. And I think some people get very panicky about diversification, that it means a complete change of offer. And actually, most times it doesn't. It means maybe amending how you do things, as Samantha has just said. It may be just, instead of just doing the self-catering, you are looking at an experience as well. So it's not the big change that most people fear. So again, get in touch with us, because we can have this conversation. If you were to do this, this would enhance your application. And they're very generous grants. So, just to recap, the digital voucher is between £1,000 and £5,000, and that is 100% funded. So that you don't have to match fund that at all. And the rural business grant is 75% of the project, anywhere between £3,000 and £25,000, and you can have up to 5 things. So it might be, Samantha spoke about extending the season. Would it help if you had outdoor seating or an arbor or something that could extend a season? I know that speaking to cottages.com, hot tubs are a big thing at the moment, because people see that as a, well, we can stay on till October a little bit and it's quite nice to chill outside. So again, talk to us, because we have the experience, and Samantha can guide you through how best to apply for these grants. I just wanted to add one other thing. On the digital front, Samantha already mentioned a widget for Visit Lincoln. There are also chat bots, and this might be really helpful for you when people start to want to come back. Again, Samantha mentioned they might have questions around security. Are you COVID safe? And the thing is, people right now are looking for quick answers. The three things that people are looking for are convenience, legitimacy, and experience. And apologies if you can hear yapping in the background. I have a little puppy and she's suddenly gone mad. And you know, a little digital tool that you can have, you can pop it on the corner of your website and you can program in, these are the hours from and to that I'm available to chat. And literally I have one on my website and it comes through on my phone, so I can be doing the shopping in Tesco and it will pop up, and it might be a simple question that says, have you got this? How do you handle this? You can answer the question there and then, and they're more likely to book than if they have to wait for you to get home and reply to an email or pick up the phone. So it's little things like this that if you talk to us, we can help you, and potentially the digital voucher could solve that as a problem for you. If you're not successful, just please be aware there are other grants. And again, you know, Samantha knows a lot of the grants around there. So there's smart energy grants. Admittedly, it's not full funding, it's 38% of the funding. That's been extended for 6 months. Grants for growth, which can support with machinery, etc. That's less for tourism, but you know, we can look at different options for you. So please reach out to us, because right now, customers are looking, as I say, for convenience, legitimacy. They want to see that you're real. If you don't have a website, it's harder for them to see that you are a real business. And they're looking for experience. They really want to see what you can offer them. They're not coming to stay with you because you've got a bed. They're not coming to shop with you or to Lincoln because you have this shop. They're coming for the wider experience. So really just adding that on to what Samantha has said, because we can link that into the grant applications. So I can't give you the answers in full, but what I can say is, please talk to us. We can help you flesh out things that you can make these work for you. And if you've got any questions, obviously, please feed them into the chat.
Thanks, Jill. And just so everyone knows, Jill and myself meet every week, and we catch up and we share information and we signpost people to help each other and put them in contact with the right people. And in terms of grant funding, that's invaluable for you all as businesses. And Jill is right, people aren't coming to Lincoln just to stay with you. They want the whole package and experience. And I think that's why it's important for me as well to try and encourage you to become more than just that accommodation provider. Give it a bit more, contact other people, other businesses, and make it a whole experience. So we're going to move on now to Hayley, my colleague Hayley, who's going to give us an update on Cycle Lincolnshire and Cycle England and how you can get involved with that.
Thanks, Samantha. A quick update, first of all, just on an overview, I guess, of the Cycle England project, if you're not aware of what that entails. So that project launched just over a couple of years ago. It's a Discover England funded project from Visit England. And the crux of that was to put new cycling holidays and cycling product into the two pilot destinations, which were Lincolnshire and Yorkshire. So we embarked on that a couple of years ago, and that phase of the project was great, really successful. We were able to do things like place fleets of e-bikes into the county, which we'd never had in the past. We were able to place grants with businesses as well to put things like cycle storage sheds into accommodation providers, and I think we placed around about £25,000 worth of grants into businesses in that respect. And then ultimately we were successful in attracting new tour operators to the county as well, that's really at the point that we got to before everything went a little bit crazy and 2020 happened. So that project was to really focus on the international market, and we were targeting Dutch and German cycling leisure cyclists, and that was the first phase. With everything that happened last year, we re-evaluated that, and we are now pivoting the project to look at the domestic audience and also residents within the county as well, but very much about the domestic leisure cyclists. So don't think men in lycra, we can if you want to, but don't think of them herring down the quiet country lanes. That's not what this project is about. This project is about families and couples coming to the county. They'll stay in lovely accommodation, they'll use our restaurants and our cafes, they'll visit our attractions, they'll spend money here, and they'll have a lovely time over a number of days. So that's really the crux of the project. And at the moment, that project centres around 4 routes that we developed right at the beginning of the project. And they're centred around the Lincolnshire Wolds, historic Lincoln, South Lincolnshire, and the Humber to the Wash, which goes from the Humber Bridge to Boston. So they're the 4 routes that we have at the moment. So I would say if you're as Samantha said, really diversifying your offer or thinking about extending what you do, the cycling market now is one very much to look at. In terms of what's happening at the moment, bike sales generally are up 60% year on year, e-bike sales are doubling, and that market in totality in the UK alone is worth over £2 billion, so it's a massive market to look at. And in terms of visibility of the offer to the visitor at the moment as well, we're just entering a really crucial time. So in terms of the Cycle England project, we'll be launching an online advertising campaign at the end of March. And then we are, and sorry, just to say as well, Visit England will also be very much looking at outdoor activities and cycling as well in the coming months, and inspiring visitors to enjoy the great outdoors. And then also in terms of business support as well, and what the project can offer, we've got a number of workshops coming up in March, which I would urge you to take a look at if you think that cycling might be for you, because they are very much centred around becoming cycling friendly, thinking about the cycling visitor and what you can do to really, appeal to that audience. It might not be, you can think about it in stages really. There might be some really easy things that you can do, and there might be some things which take a little bit of further thought and a more of a long-term project. But I really don't think that the spotlight is shining on cycling at the moment, and I really don't think that it's going to go away anytime soon. So I think if you're looking to invest in anything to give your business longevity and diversify, I think cycling is probably one of the best ways to do that presently. So I just wanted to go through really in terms of cycling, becoming cycling friendly, and what those workshops will entail. They are, just to say, they are on the 11th of March and the 23rd of March. And we've got limited availability for those at the moment. But what I would say is that if you can't get into those, contact me. We'll put you on a waiting list. And if we get booked up, we will try our best to put more on. So please don't think if you can't get onto them that that's a dead end. It's just that we need to show that those are full, and then hopefully we can get some more. So in terms of things to think about then to become cycle friendly, the first thing I would say is just think about your visibility online. Literally, are you saying that you welcome cyclists? Does it say that on your website? Can you put links to cycling routes on your website that you're near? Could you possibly even put Cycle England videos on your website, for example? So I'm no technical wizard, but I know that putting videos on your website will increase your SEO. So if you can do that, that's fantastic. Or link back to the Cycle England website as well to be able to show those routes in a little bit more detail. So that's something to think about. And can you book online as well? Just as simply as, could a cyclist or a leisure cyclist look at your website and be able to plot a route for themselves and think, can I book online? So there are some key things to think about for your online presence. And then in terms of your physical setup, within your accommodation, there are some really basic things that you can do which will make a cyclist's life a lot easier. So have you got safe and secure storage on site? So it might just be a bike rack that's properly anchored into the ground so that cyclists can be sure that their equipment is safe. There are some just things to think about, for example, that there are some anchor points which are safer than others and mean that the cyclist's insurance is valid as well. So that's something to think about. So safe and secure storage. Do you have charging points for e-bikes? We mentioned e-bikes are very much they're very popular at the moment. So have you got a charging point nearby for e-bikes? Can the cyclists come in, sit down somewhere that you don't mind is going to get muddy, that they're going to take their muddy clothes off, trainers off, they can hose their bikes down, and they can put maybe their panniers in a locker as well. That's something that's quite simple to implement, and that's something that thinking back to the beginning of the project that we did quite early on with a couple of the hotels, one in South Killingham and one in Louth. We put those facilities in, and they were able to advertise that on their website, and we know that they saw increases in cycling bookings. So it's things like that really that in terms of basic bits and pieces are quite straightforward to implement. Things as well like maintenance packs, puncture repair kits, first aid kits, spanners to do things with. Do you offer a pack-up breakfast, for example, so that the cyclist can just take a breakfast on the go and have it if they're having an early start a little bit later on? Can you give them information on routes as well? So could you give them a handout? We've got some Cycle England handouts for our routes, which we're very happy to supply, if you want to give information on that specific route, or you can give links as well for the cyclists to use on their GPX, so on their wayfinding equipment as well, so and to put into Strava or something like that. So those are really sort of straightforward things that you could do quite easily within your business. And then just thinking about maybe some more advanced options, could you offer a ground handling service? So when your visitor has stayed with you, could you offer to transfer their bags to their next stop so that they don't have to think about how they're going to get those to their next stop on their bike, because that's often not possible. Could you partner with a bike shop in the local area? Could you offer a discount to bike hire? Could the bike be there ready and waiting for them when they arrive with you? Things like that, which will maybe just take a little bit more thinking about, but mean that you can tap into all of this newfound sort of awareness and desire for cycling, really. So they're the key things. Just a couple of things that I just wanted to point out as well in terms of just other bits and pieces to be aware of. Single night stays are really important to the cycling visitor. So especially if they are on a point-to-point route, for example, our Humber to the Wash route. So they will stay in one place for one night and then go 30, 40 miles down the road or however long it is to the next stop. So think about, do you have the flexibility there to be able to offer single night stays? And I know where we are at the moment in terms of extra COVID compliance and clean downs and everything else that's wrapped around that might present some challenges, but it's just something to have an awareness of and to think about how you might be able to overcome that. And the other point is just to say as well, in terms of I think it was Samantha that mentioned shoulder season. Cyclists, quite often they'll be slightly older couples or travelling without children. So again, thinking back to e-bikes, you can't go on an e-bike if you're 14 or under. So they are going to be travelling outside of school holidays. So if that's an area that you want to be able to extend your season, attracting cycling visitors might be a you know, a way to be able to tick that box, really. So I think that's it. I think I've rattled through everything. All I would say is we've got lots of activity coming up in terms of what's happening with Cycle England, but also in terms of launching Cycle Lincolnshire as well, which will carry on from the Cycle England project. And that's very much around extending this project offer, working with stakeholders across the county so that we're delivering a joined up cycling approach within the county. We're really keen to work with businesses, and I would just say that the more that you can engage with the project and sort of, you know, contact me, put yourself in front of the project, I'm really happy to work with you and to look at your businesses individually and see how we can make that happen. So I would just urge you to drop me an email or get in touch.
Thanks, Hayley. And as Hayley says, yeah, she's more than happy. I'm not speaking for her, but she's more than happy to look at your business on an individual basis, as she says. And some of these things don't take too much money, I suppose, or effort, because think little things like Hayley mentioned, you can have an outside tap, and it means so much to a cyclist to be able to hose down their muddy bike at the end of the day. But just those simple things will make a huge difference to attracting them to your accommodation. So there's some things to think about there. And in terms of, again, as Hayley says, thinking about extending that season, because cyclists, they're a bit of, they like the all weather, don't they? They're not like me, who's just a summer cyclist. They're all weather. So let's take advantage of that if we can. Right, we're going to hear from Katrina very quickly. Has anybody got a question, or are we carrying on rattling through at all? Any questions? No? Right, okay. So if we go to Katrina, so I'm sure many of you will have heard and seen Katrina. She is absolutely everywhere. She's the poster girl of Lincolnshire. So, and I'm very pleased to say she's almost our adopted team member here. So, Katrina, take it away. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, and it's lovely as ever to join you. I know there's an awful lot that's gone on over the last week. There's more to come next week with the budget. So there's quite a lot to go through. So I'm going to, again, to use that term, rattle through. A lot of the dates I'm sure you will already have looked at, but it's just a chance to review them, take a minute to think about what they mean for your business, things you might need to do around them. So we'll take a look at those, and also a little bit of a look ahead to the budget next week. We are in a little bit of a limbo week at the minute. So we had that roadmap announced on Monday. Roadmap to what? Now, over the last year, we've heard all sorts of these terms, haven't we? World beating, moonshot, all of these things that are said either so often that they become meaningless, or they're just quite catchy terms. Now, this is a roadmap to the end of restrictions. So where we are now in full lockdown towards lifting all social contact restrictions and basically letting all businesses come back to life. There are 4 stages between now and June. An awful lot of dependencies between now and then. So we're just going to take a quick look at them with you. We'll just talk through a couple of the practicalities of the dates. And then, because we're in this limbo between the announcement of what that plan looks like, but not quite knowing what the support looks like along the way, we're just going to give you a little bit of a look ahead to what might happen, what we're calling for on a national level, and also as a local level, talking to MPs, whoever can influence whatever happens next week, that will help your business come back to life and keep the home fires burning until you are up at full capacity and firing on all cylinders. So without further ado, we'll start looking at the, oh, there we go. This is a good start, isn't it? We're on the wrong one. Start sharing, Katrina, properly. Just bear with me. This is a great start. It's because I was testing it earlier, you see. So here we go. This is a better start. Allegedly. Yes, there we go. Okay, so these 4 stages, they are heavily dependent on an awful lot going right in the right time, in the right order. So those things are the vaccine deployment programme that's currently on an incredible course. I think as of today, something like 18.7 million people have been vaccinated. The next group of priority has just been announced this afternoon. So that's on a great trajectory. But there are some potential supply issues that we just need to watch out for. But at the moment, that's all looking very positive. Evidence that those vaccines are having an effect on driving down the virus rather than just protecting people from getting it or suffering terribly with it. It's about reducing hospitalizations and deaths. The infection rates do not cause, or the unlocking stages do not cause a surge in infection rates, which we have seen happen before. The difference now, of course, is we've got the vaccine, 2 already being deployed, others on the brink of being so, but we can't risk unlocking hospitality or getting all children back to school, and that risking a further surge that would then place new pressure on the NHS, because they're only just coming out of saying they feel that they are at a manageable stage. And an assessment of risks based on new variants. Now we're hearing an awful lot about variants, South Africa, Brazil, Kent. It's what viruses do, or it's what successful viruses do. They mutate, they try and find a new host and a new way to live on. It's the virus and the social distancing measures that have driven that down. But all of these 4 stages that come along, all 4 of these tests have to be met at every single review stage. So that's not to be a dream crusher or Captain Bring Down. This is just, there's a lot to take into account. And so this is where the government is talking about caution. So those caveats are, between each of these stages, these 4 stages, there needs to be a minimum of 5 weeks. So that's a 4-week stage to basically let the restriction or let the new way of working play out, to test. Is it having an effect on variants? Is it having an effect on the NHS? And then a week to give notice that the next stage can go ahead. So the caveat there is, if any one of these stages are missed, any of these milestones along this route map are missed, that doesn't mean the next stage gets shortened. It means they all get shunted along, because then remember there has to be a minimum of 5 weeks between each one of them. So again, on course for that not to happen, but it is just something we've got to bear in mind. You'll have heard the PM talk about this being a cautious but irreversible trajectory, and driven by data and not dates. So while we're all really hanging on to these dates across the next few months, it does all depend on those 4 tests and being satisfied on the data on each one of them. And of course, we need to know what the funding and support mechanisms look like while lots of businesses are still in restrictions, and then what happens in that lull while you're still getting up to full power, where you're trying to fire on all cylinders. It's not a case of, or we don't believe it's a case that you will open the doors and all is forgotten, all the economic damage is forgotten, and you're back to full capacity. There will be a lull, and we're campaigning very hard to get some right support in place. People will come on to that. So I'm sure you've taken a look at this so far, but it's worth revisiting what happens at each of these stages. And the first one is not far away at all. Week on Monday, 8th of March. Now, these earlier stages are not so much about business and certainly not about hospitality. They really seem to be around schools, childcare, and increasing social contact where possible, primarily at this very early stage for people in care homes. So you're probably not going to feel the effects of these early unlocking stages quite yet, perhaps with funerals and weddings sort of going ahead, but they're still quite a small scale. It's really around the 29th of March where you start to see more social contact come back. And the good thing, again, for your industry is that more sports will come back. So if you've got premises, hotels with tennis courts, that kind of thing, then they will start to come back to life within the month. So that's really important that we look at that. The stay-at-home message will basically be in place until the 29th of March. So until you hear otherwise, that main message still stays in place, and that will, once that comes, that's really something to look forward to be not told to stay at home for much longer, but that's really in place for the next month. So think of this period here as a run-up. This is the run-up, and this is the time to do some of that stuff that Samantha was talking about earlier, and Hayley, around getting your business ready to come back for a really strong launch much later in the spring. So use this next month to review where you could collaborate with other local businesses to create packages, discounts, offers, referrals, and some of that cycle-friendly stuff, because it sounds like that's an opportunity just waiting to be grasped. So I would use this month to get your businesses ready. Then this is step 2. And again, this has to be at least 5 weeks after step 1. If any reason it gets missed, it'll get shunted on, but so far so good. This is where indoor leisure can return. So if you've got gyms in your hotels, if you've got swimming pools, you can start to let people in again. Outdoor attractions, this is fantastic for the county. Things like the Parrot Zoo, or you know, the Seal Sanctuary in Skegness, things like that can start to reopen. And this sadly is after Easter. This is a real shame, but it is after Easter. But it does mean that from April, you can start welcoming people back into those settings as well. Community centres and premises, things like museums can start to open then as well. So you can see bit by bit that whole visitor experience starts to reopen. It's not just about accommodation, of course, that's absolutely vital, but it's about those wider attractions opening up as well. Outdoor hospitality will kick in at this point as well. So that means if you've got a terrace, an outdoor, a pavement, anything where you can serve food and drink outside, this is your time to capitalise on that, because this will be the first time in a very long time. In Lincolnshire, I think that'll be the first time since November anyone would have been able to eat out. So you will have people banging on your doors to come and get some service with you. So please be ready for that. We are aware of some supply chain issues in hospitality, mostly around things like brewing. You know, people have been buying beer in pubs and hotels for the best part of, at this point, almost 6 months. So there's not so much beer that's been brewed. There's, you know, a bit of a lag in things like butchery as well, because people haven't been eating out. People have been doing a lot more home cooking. So we're urging those businesses in the supply chain that serve your businesses to be really ready, so that you don't feel the impacts of there not being any beer or any meat or supply chain issues there. So this is quite, you can see how this is actually quite a complex machine to get going behind the scenes. The great thing for you guys on the 20th of April, self-contained accommodation limited to one household comes back to life. So if you've got caravans, lodges, you've got self-contained B&B room, like motel rooms where they've got their own entrance, their own exits, they're not have to go through a reception. If they've not got shared bathrooms, they can come back, and I bet you're already feeling the effects of people wanting to book those very, very soon. There will be no international holidays still allowed at this point, so this is the really the time to be hammering the message in any way you can that people need to be coming to holiday with you. So this is the really exciting point, and then from there it only gets more exciting, because at this stage in May, this is when remaining accommodation, so any type of hotel, B&B, anything that you've got can reopen, come back to life, and there'll be no restrictions. If we meet this date, there'll be no restrictions on whether people are mixing in households, how long they're staying, whether they're coming through a reception, whether you've got shared facilities. At this point, it won't matter. So if you are waiting for that, this is your point to be ready. Also, remaining outdoor entertainment can come back. So things like concerts, we could start to see coming back really strong. This is in May, so the weather should be, fingers crossed, we're in Lincolnshire and in England. The weather will hopefully be good enough to have outdoor performances, but also things like cinemas will also be back around then as well. So you can really see, again, that wider experience of people taking a break is coming back. Outdoor sport as well will be back, so you'll see more football matches and things, and they will be testing pilots for large events, so concerts, indoor and outdoor festivals as well on a smaller scale. So it really is all powering up across those spring months for you. And also weddings can come back in a slightly larger scale as well. Weddings can be up to 30 guests. So think of that as a good test run for a good summer of delivering weddings again. Because this step 4, 21st of June, this is all eyes on this date. This is where allegedly there will be no legal limits on social contact. That means you can mix with who you want. It'll be like 2019 all over again. You'll be able to mix with who you want. Larger events will theoretically be allowed. You can already see things like the Reading and Leeds festivals they're at the end of August, but they've confirmed they're going ahead. So there does seem to be an awful lot of optimism that by June things will be somewhat back to normal. There'll be no limits at all on things like weddings. And I know after a year and 15 months essentially by the time everything opens, that full-scale weddings won't be able to go ahead. There will be a hell of a backlog, and I'm sure you're all being inundated with requests for that. But that's the day that they can all start to go ahead in the way that most bride and grooms would want them to go ahead. And also, poor old nightclubs, who were the very first to close on the 20th of March last year, 3 days before the official lockdown, they were the first to close, they will be the last to reopen. at that point. So I think, although it's a Monday, that date is a Monday, which I find hilarious. Everyone's going to want to go out to the pub, go to nightclubs, and it's on a Monday before the summer holidays. So be aware of people trying to book off the 22nd of June is what I'd say to you. So this is that map. It's exciting. It's what's been lacking until now. All of the restrictions that we went through last year were very much emergency measures, very short term. You'll remember back to last March and April when initially it was a 3-week lockdown, then it was 3 more weeks, then it was until the summer, then we saw that brief kind of relief over the summer, then bit by bit we started to see them come back down. For the first time in this entire crisis, we have a medium-term plan with very firm markers there, but have tests to meet along the way. So it's exciting. There are some caveats, but so far so good. And I think we're all just going to have to be very mindful of keeping an eye on the news, not to the point that it's going to upset you or obsess, because I think we've all lived through that of obsessing about the news and are we meeting these dates. So far so good. And this is hopefully very, very exciting for your industry. But there's a way to get there first. As you can see, for nightclubs, for example, they're due to be closed for another 4 months yet. So what happens in this limbo? Officially, the furlough scheme, for example, was due to end in April. It's already been extended 3 times. Things like the self-employment income support scheme, if any of you are truly self-employed, it's all been the announcements about support there has been really short term. People have only really known they were getting at least 1 or 2 grants at a time. So we're in this limbo where we don't quite know what support looks like to help businesses get through to this point, to meet those milestones, to reopen gradually, and then hopefully with a real bang by the summer. Wednesday, we should know what that looks like. So that's the spring budget. We now only have 1 budget a year anyway. We used to have 2. We used to have 1 in the autumn, which was a spending review. We now have the 1. And I think we can picture old Rishi Sunak is probably working very, very, very hard this weekend, and rightly so, because there's a huge expectations on him and his department. So let's see what happens on Wednesday. Now, just to set the scene, now you all know exactly where you are financially, where you're with your business, how you've suffered, in what way, how much, and what you think you need. We've done some research recently and found that pretty much 1 in 5 businesses have had no support whatsoever. They've not been able to access the furlough scheme. They've not been able to take a self-employment grant. They've not had the local authority leisure grants. Now, hopefully that doesn't apply to any of you, and I sincerely hope it doesn't. If you're in leisure and retail and hospitality, you definitely should have. But just looking at the economy wider, because of course this all impacts on how much money people have got to spend with you. A lot of people have not had the support. Now, the scheme that Jill was talking about earlier is unique to Lincolnshire so far. We are really, really, really proud that our county has stepped up and tried to step in to support people. But all eyes are on the government now. The next move really does need to come from them, because after a year of restrictions, to have quite so many people still excluded is a travesty, to be honest. So we'll be expecting to see some actions to rectify that. So that's about 1 million businesses nationwide that have been left without support. Small business owners are saying it's not just the fact they've got no money in, their bills are soaring because they're perhaps having to keep, they're probably spending more money themselves because they're at home more. It could be that they've got equipment running in their premises that isn't really being used, but they can't turn it off. So they're seeing bills soar with income either on the floor or very, very, very minimal. 32% are saying they would be, if their bills could fall a little bit, they would be able to take on another member of staff. And this is part of government's long-term plan, is about reviving the economy, all of this building back better, another one of those terms that's getting thrown around an awful lot. It all comes down to jobs and businesses to be able to have the certainty and the confidence to employ people. That all comes down to finances. So bills are a problem because they seem to be holding businesses back from wanting or being able to employ at least an apprentice or more. And retailers, again, you'll work with lots of retailers in your industry. An awful lot of them have not had a rent holiday from their landlord. This is quite difficult for the FSB because a lot of landlords are small businesses as well. That's their entire business. But, you know, we're asking them to kind of play ball. A lot of the time when they've benefited from the local authority grants as well, we've asked them to share or pass that on to their tenants. We've not always seen that. Lots are doing a great job, but there are some that aren't. So you can just see from that map there, that reality of what we're dealing with, and therefore why there are such expectations on the Chancellor next week to not necessarily repair the damage. What's done, unfortunately, is done. There have been fantastic flagship schemes put in place. There have also been many people missed. It's now time to close those gaps, create some certainty for the coming months, and enable business to come back in such a strong way that hopefully in a year's time, all of this will be a distant memory. Off the back of the last financial crisis in 2008, it was really SMEs and the self-employed that saved the economy, where people were losing jobs with the big boys in the private sector. A phenomenal amount of them is something like in the 70% found a new role in an SME, or by going it alone, becoming a startup on their own. We expect to see that happen again. But we're saying to government, direct to Treasury, if you want SMEs to save the economy again, you've got to play your part now. You've got to look after them. So what we're asking for from Mr. Sunak is the most ambitious budget in modern history. So the financial crisis that we're living through now is the worst since, I think it's 1703 or 1709. It's the worst in 300 years. There is nothing like it. There is no comparable scale that we can look at. So this has to really set a new precedent, because we have all the moving parts to come back strong, if only some of these things were put in place. So we are pushing very, very, very hard for these flagship support schemes to stay in place. So that's furlough, self-employed income support scheme, the local restrictions grants, the CBILS and bounce back loans, some of the extensions there to stay in place, and also to close those gaps, close those horrific gaping holes where owner directors and new startups were falling through. It shouldn't be up to a county council to step in to save them. And even then, they're having to put in quite a lot of eligibility and quite strict criteria. There are still people falling through, unfortunately. It's now down to the Chancellor to close those gaps so those businesses can keep the home fires burning and come back strong over the summer. We hope we can expect to see the furlough system stay in place, or at least for hard-hit industries, and hospitality will be one of them, again, because you can't quite come back yet, and it will take a little bit of time to come back strong. So we are expecting, I'm very much hoping to see furlough stay in place, and I think self-employment support scheme will as well, if you use that. We think there'll be a final grant paid in May, but we don't know what scale that will be at the moment. We're asking for the staff retention bonus. Does anyone remember that? That was £1,000 bonus you were due to get for every member of staff you'd had on furlough at some point in 2020 and managed to retain their job and bring them back to work. That was originally due to be paid in January. When we went into the second lockdown in November, it was kind of kicked into the long grass. It just went away. It was the verbiage was, we'll review it. We'll review it. It wasn't told it was cancelled, it was going away, it was we'll review it and when the time's right. I know a lot of businesses and spoke to a phenomenal amount of them that said, we've been banking on that. I've got 8 staff off. I could have had 8 grand in the bank. That would have given me a really strong start to the year. Where's that money gone? It's just disappeared overnight. So we're asking for that to come back either at the same scale, enhanced ideally, but at least come back, or give some clarity on what the hell is happening with that bonus, because there was an incentive there for the right reason to try and give businesses a thank you for doing all they can to keep those roles in place and to keep those jobs burning. So we're expecting and very much hoping to see that come back. We're certainly hassling them a lot for it. And to extend the business rates exemptions, which came in at the start of the crisis, to 2022. So local authorities and the economy generally makes an awful lot of business rates. They are a perfectly legitimate way of, reclaiming tax and that kind of thing, but they are an enormous cost to small businesses. You don't need me to tell you that. And I think giving that holiday, that extension, would help you get through the rest of this year, so that by the time 2022 comes around, if you are eligible, you're able to pay them and it doesn't feel like quite such a sharp sting. We're also campaigning for more businesses to be captured in those exemptions. As I was mentioning earlier, if you are retail, hospitality, leisure, chances are you've either benefited from that holiday, but a lot of those businesses that service your industry are not. So catering suppliers, abattoirs, things like that, you know, without them, you know, there is no hospitality industry, unfortunately, because there's nothing to serve. And also things like laundry businesses. I can think of 3 laundry businesses that do tablecloths for restaurants and all the linen for hotels. Their businesses have not been mandated to close because they're not customer facing. Therefore, they haven't been able to claim support or any of the grants. They've had to take on debt or loans to get through it. So we are pushing for more of those businesses to be captured in that exemption, because that would give them a real break, help them concentrate on recovering their businesses, employing staff if they need to, if that's a good way to use that money, so that by the time 2022 comes, they'll be in a much better position to pay them. A couple of other things. Again, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you, the costs of employing every single member of staff for a small business are enormous. It's not just their salary, it's the NIC contributions and pensions. We've been pushing for this for quite a long time, and the time is now right for those contributions to be reduced, so that it's not quite such a burden to take on a member of staff, that you don't even really have to think about it. If you can cover their salary, then you should be able to take someone on. But if you're having to second guess almost taking someone on because of those contributions, we need to see that go, or at least be made far easier. We remain very, very hopeful on this one, because this, again, it's all about jobs. It's about creating jobs and enabling people to find a new role in an SME if for any reason they've lost their job with one of the big boys or in the public sector. The late payment crisis it's eternally been an issue. You can call it late payment, non-payment, slow payment, whatever you like, but as a business you deserve to get paid in full every time, on time. When your customers check out, or when they come to pay their bill, they pay on time, otherwise they can't have their products, they can't have their stay, or you know, they get into some trouble. That is not the same for businesses. Everything's relied on payment terms, some which can be up to 120 days, is not acceptable. It does not enable small businesses to grow. It creates enormous cash flow problems and cripples small businesses, and in some cases is the final death knell for some of them, because they've got money due that they know they are owed, but they can't get it in time to cover their own costs. This needs to go. So we're working very closely with the Small Business Minister and something called the Prompt Payment Code to enable new regulations to kick in, or strengthen regulations to end this curse of late payment. And that needs to work both ways. It is about, if you're a small business and you've got small businesses in your supply chain, you pay them quickly, and then you'll be able to, you know, benefit from that prompt payment code as well when people owe you money. That needs to be formalised in the budget next week. So let's look out for what he says then. And you'll have seen an awful lot of talk about build as you pay as you grow. And a good example of that is the bounce back and CBILS loans. The terms for them have already been extended, but we're pushing for that to be formalised, and some other, you know, things like tax liabilities and things to be considered, where people only pay them once they've recovered enough, or they pay them in line with their recovery and their income. That is really important at this time. Again, we've not seen a crisis like this in 300 years. We need to be able to give businesses time to pay back what they owe and to recover in line with and pay back in line with their recovery. So we'll hopefully see some movement there from the Chancellor on Wednesday. There'll be an awful lot more in there. There'll be a lot about the green economy. There'll be an awful lot in there about infrastructure. That's usually the time that major infrastructure projects are launched. Things like HS2 aren't particularly going to benefit us here in Lincolnshire, but connectivity, that counts. You know, internet connectivity, broadband rollouts, 5G, that is as crucial to Lincolnshire's economy as anything, really. If you've not got a web presence and you can't run it, or if you've got a hotel and your staff can't, and your visitors can't get guest Wi-Fi because the connection locally is so rubbish, it all impacts on the experience. So we're pushing really, really, really hard for increased connectivity, particularly in rural areas like Lincolnshire, to be outlined or at least hinted at in the budget, so that we can build on those promises. So there'll be a lot in there. There's a lot at the minute where we're asking them to answer the emergency that we've just been through and are still going through, to help businesses get through what we hope is the final few months of this crisis, to come back strong, and then put in place these Build Back Better measures on infrastructure, on the costs of employment, on business rates that shouldn't be short-term cancellations or emergencies, things that are in there for the long term to help businesses to start, to grow, to thrive. And what I want to see for businesses in Lincolnshire, that they have exactly the right operating environment to do all of that, to start up a business, to forge their future, to make a fortune, to welcome people to this amazing county, to holiday, to move here if that's their wish, you know, and to see everything that we've got here. That of course all doesn't depend on the Chancellor, but you know, those economic solutions and those economic environment things that we're asking for all contribute to that. So it'll be a big old day on Wednesday. We'll have an awful lot to say. I think we're going to have an update on Thursday, aren't we, Samantha, or something around then. We're going to try and answer your questions as quickly as we can on Thursday morning, once the information's been released and we've made sense of it. But they're the things that we're asking for to help you get through these last tricky few months, keep jobs, create more jobs, grow, diversify, whatever you need to do. That's what we're asking for. So I realise I have really rattled through an awful lot there. So if there are any questions that have come in, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I'm sure you're sick of hearing from me by now.
Have we got any questions that have come in for Katrina at all? You might have got off quite lightly there, Katrina, I think. I do agree, and let's hope that the budget is kind to all those SMEs that are in desperate need of a bit of help. And I do agree, and that word you used about curse of late payment, it absolutely is a curse. I know businesses, I'm sure we all do, that are quite, you know, small, medium enterprises that are on the verge of closing, if not are going to close, and it's heartbreaking because it's just down to cash flow, as it were, in terms of they just can't get their money that they owe. They're owed that money and they just can't get it quick enough. And it really does need looking at. And I do hope that the lobbying and campaigning that you have going on, keep pushing with that, because it's really important to those smaller businesses. It did make me smile as well, just going off tangent a little bit, but nightclubs opening on a Monday.
It's hilarious.
That's I can guarantee on Tuesday, either lots of people will be booking annual leave or there'll be a lot of sickness.
That's what I say, watch out on Tuesday the 22nd.
And sales of aspirin and paracetamol will go through the roof. Everybody will be a hangover. Right, well, any questions then before we finish off today? Anybody got anything they'd like to ask? Have we got anything that's come in?
Yeah, we've got 2 questions.
Okay, fire away. Let's see if we can answer them.
Okay, so question number 1. Government guidelines are that from the 12th of April, weddings can go ahead for up to 15 people, but does that include wedding breakfasts and receptions, as indoor hospitality venues cannot accept people indoors until 17th of May?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I don't know if you know anything on this, Katrina. It is a grey area. The government haven't been completely clear. They say weddings can go ahead, but whether that means receptions, because actually the actual itself, celebration, the celebration, it is a different thing. So there is actually there's a template that wedding organisers have put together. Let me just see if I can get it, because this is something I've been looking at actually for our hoteliers. So there's a template that the wedding suppliers and venue organisations have come up with, and you can write to your MP to get clarification on this, because it is a grey area. So the website, if anybody needs it, if you're a hotelier and you don't know about it, it's whataboutweddings.co.uk. On there is a template. You use that, you write who you are, what you want to say, go straight to your local MP. It's all done for you. They sort it all out. But you then join a bigger voice, which is what's needed, as Katrina, I'm sure, will testify. It's a grey area, so no, unfortunately, I don't think we know exactly just yet if that means you can have a reception in the evening, or if it just means you can get married. But there is this lobbying campaigning letter for your MP, which may help you, and I would advise you to jump on that and do it. Have you heard anything, Katrina?
Yeah, it is just the celebration, the
Yeah.
actual ceremony. You can't have indoor receptions at that point, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so they're going to have to wait until what date would be 17th of March. Would that take them to May, not March, May?
They can in the I'm losing track now. In April, they can have an outdoor celebration. Perhaps it's really till May when you can have indoor hospitality.
Yeah, so I think you're going to have to wait. So yeah, sorry about that, but jump on that MP's letter, as I say, and I hope that's helpful. Anything else?
Second one is on the 12th of April, self-catering accommodation is allowed to take bookings. Are campsites with shared shower and toilet block facilities allowed to open?
No. So no. So the park can open, by all means. You can open your park to campers, tourists, mobile caravans, whatever. But you must make it clear on your website and at the point of booking or inquiry that your guests will not be able to use shared facilities. So your toilet, shower blocks, they'll be closed. So you can accept people onto the park, but they must come with their own facilities. If they're camping, they need to bring their own washing facilities and their own camping toilets. You can't open those shared facilities. Apart from that, you can happily open your park because you're classed as self-accommodation, but don't open any shared facilities. Anything to add to that, Katrina?
No, you're spot on.
Okay, right, that's good. And anything else?
Got one more. This one's for Katrina. Has the FSB got any information about closer insurance, e.g. what we should be asking our insurance? And that's from Martin in the chat.
Is that closure insurance, as in business interruption insurance?
Yeah.
So you'll have seen in January, I think it was, there was the decision from the Supreme Court that where insurers had been trying to get out of paying out on business interruption claims simply because COVID wasn't specifically named as a named known disease on policies, that they were saying, sorry, you're not covered for COVID. Well, before December 2019, no one had ever heard of it, so why would it be? That was largely overturned by the Supreme Court in January. Now, the advice is you need to speak to your own insurer. There are lots of instances where they're still trying to get out of it. I've seen a couple that are absolutely outrageous where they're still trying to get out of it. We're continuing to lobby so the insurers behave. Where I say that that policy was largely overturned, there will still be some caveats and will be some policies where I'm afraid you won't be covered, but depending on how they worded it, depending on the type of policy you had. But it is very, very much worth revisiting your policy and talking to your insurer again. If you tried to claim before and couldn't get anywhere, go back and quote the Supreme Court ruling at them. You can easily Google it and find the ruling. It'll be on BBC. It's on our FSB website as well. Be prepared that they could still have some very, very cleverly worded alternative to get out of it, but we are seeing payouts finally start to come through. But I would recommend talk to your insurer, quote that Supreme Court ruling at them and see where you get.
Thanks, Katrina. I know that when we first spoke about this and we had a quick meeting about it, didn't we? And more and more insurers are feeling pressure now, which is good because they should feel that pressure, because originally, you know, they were trying to get out of paying. Well, they were getting out of paying, but continual lobby and campaigning has put that pressure on them to make them pay out now. But you know, you do need to get in touch with your own insurer and fight your corner. And I'm sure
they won't just get back in touch with you. They won't just get back in touch with you and pay out. You've got to be proactive.
And if you're unsure about what to say or how to word your letter or when you speak to them, I'm sure that Katrina will, again, I'm volunteering you, but I'm sure that, well, between us both, we could help you sort of think of what you want to say to them and how you're going to put pressure on them that way. So I think we must, I'm conscious of time now, so we're going to sort of bring it to an end. If you want to know any more information about anything at all, you can contact any of us here at the team. If you don't know us, we are visitlincoln.com. You can get in touch with us. All our emails are the same. So it's our first name. So Samantha, Hayley, Sam, Justin, Jessica, Charlotte, we're all the same, at visitlincoln.com. Katrina is always on hand. She speaks to myself quite regularly and updates us. And as she just mentioned, we are speaking on Thursday morning straight after the budget and we're going to have a quick roundup of what that budget means for everyone. And then we will record that, edit it and put it out to you, to our business community and our partners. So I want to thank you all today for taking time out of the sun, which has been a long time coming, and I do appreciate you sitting indoors and listening to us. But I hope it's been a help to you. If there's questions that you want to ask and we haven't, as I say, please get in touch with us. And thank you also to all the panelists for taking time to sit with me today and update us on all the things that have been helpful for our partners. Thank you. So I hopefully will speak next week, Katrina, about the budget. I hope to speak to partners as soon as you want to. I'm always on the end of the phone. You can call me anytime. And also please think about what I said earlier about working with other partners and thinking about diversifying, helping each other, give business to each other, just explore ideas. If you want to brainstorm, as I say, just pick up the phone. Right, so I'll bring it to an end there, and thank you all for listening in, and I will speak to you all soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.